May 21st, 2024 meeting of the Palm Springs Sustainability Commission is now called to order. Director McCoy, would you please take the roll call?
Absolutely. Commissioner Alexander,
Here.
Vice Chair Barrett,
Present.
Chair Clark,
Present.
Commissioner Cohn,
Present.
Commissioner Dirda,
Present.
Commissioner Forster is sick. He's not able to make it this evening. Commissioner Frick,
Here.
Commissioner Graham,
Present.
and I believe Commissioners Rotner and Walker are on their way.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting this evening. Tonight we have a special guest, a presenter from the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, Jacob Alvarez. We also have a guest, former Commissioner David Friedman from DCE, who has spoken to us in the past. And I'd like to welcome anybody else who's here and any visitors that are on Zoom. The next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the agenda. It was sent to the commissioners and posted on Thursday, May 16th. Is there any discussion about the agenda? Good. If not, we'll accept the agenda as it is and proceed. The next item then on the agenda is the presentation from Inland Regional Energy Network, Jacob Alvarez, whom we introduced. This presentation was originally scheduled for February, but now we have it this evening.
And so I'll just very briefly introduce our guest this evening. I was at the Solid Waste Association of North America conference this morning, and the MC gave quite an illustrious introduction to Mayor Bernstein. I cannot claim to match that level of illustrious introduction. So I'll very briefly introduce our colleagues from CVAG and the Inland Regional Energy Network, Jacob and David, former Commissioner Friedman. So Jacob is here to walk us through what the Inland Regional Network is, how the city of Palm Springs can take advantage of it, how we're already collaborating and what some of the opportunities are that we're looking for in the near term, and just to kind of talk about the role of that network in our evolving energy future. So Jacob, I will hand it over to you.
Perfect.
And I will just ask that both of you use your mics when you talk, so it makes it easier for the recording.
Thank you. And then how do I proceed?
Maybe Ben, do you want to just say when you're ready for the next slide?
Oh, yeah, I'll just, there's gonna be some clicks because of animations and stuff. Hey, good afternoon, Sustainability Commissioners, and thank you for having me today to provide Inland Regional Energy Network presentation. Like it was already said, my name is Jacob Alvarez. I am the IREN Program Manager for the Coachella Valley Association of Governments. I also want to introduce, of course, my CVAG IREN colleague, David Friedman, who you guys know very well. Just to toot his own horn for him, he's also IREN Program Manager, who's leading the codes and standards portion for the entire program. Next slide. Who is IREN and what are we here to do? Transition. So let's get started with how we got here. In 2019, San Bernardino Council of Governments, CVAG, and Western Riverside Council of Governments partnered together. There were some energy efficiency programs that were about to sunset due to a dissolution of local government partnerships. These were investor-owned utility partnerships with local government agencies. The three Inland Empire COGs partnered together to develop a business plan to help Riverside and San Bernardino counties. A business plan was submitted to the CPUC California, and I tend to acronym, so I'll try to make sure I explain exactly who they are. Submitted to the California Public Utilities Commission, and this plan was approved in 2021, and the funding is through 2027. RENs, as we call them, are designed to develop, implement programs that investor-owned utilities cannot implement, and these programs are designed to help hard-to-reach areas of disadvantaged communities. The programs are then implemented by RENs, and they also need to be scalable. IRENs intend to be a premier resource for energy efficiency for our member jurisdictions. We connect with workforce industry, local governments, and other stakeholders in a wide range of energy efficiency resources. Our aim is to provide equitable access to the benefits of energy efficiency, including cost savings throughout Riverside and San Bernardino counties. Next slide. Within the IREN portfolio, there are three programs: transition, the public sector, next one, codes and standards, next one, workforce education and training. Next slide. We build capacity and knowledge to enable local governments to effectively leverage energy efficiency services to demonstrate best practices. IREN takes comprehensive approach in helping local agencies complete energy efficiency projects, from designing performance specifications to project completion. We're a suite of services to help identify energy saving measures and work alongside agency staff at no additional cost. Forward. Energy usage review. We review your utility data, share insights on your energy savings potential, including energy benchmarking tool called Building Upgrade Concierge. Next. Energy resilience roadmap. We help you develop a plan to make lasting energy impacts. This is similar to what you Palm Springs has had before, which was called the Energy Action Plan. Next. Energy audits. Our team identifies energy improvement projects for your facilities. Next. Funding and financing support. We will help you secure incentives and financing that is right for you. If you take a look at the sheet in front of you, the incentive structure for working on the project. So if you have a project that's a facility, you get paid a rebate from IREN depending on how much energy savings you have or that you save up to. So if you want to go anywhere between 0 and 10%, you're going to get a 50 cents per kilowatt savings. And then it goes up between 16 to 30% is 60, 31 to 50% is 70, and over 50% is $1 per kilowatt. Now, if you're doing a project that's considered a critical center, a cooling center, a resiliency center, we offer incentives with a little kicker. So you go from $1, $1.20, $1.40 to $2 at those same tiers. One thing to note in the local government partnerships that I mentioned earlier, those incentives were done basically per measure. And when you took a look at an average project and then you averaged out the total savings, and this was through the IOU. So for here, it would be Southern California Edison. You were only looking at a 12-cent savings. So this program is actually bringing a lot more money to help you and incentivize you to do cost-cutting measures at your facilities. And we were happy. I don't know if you mentioned to them last week, or I'm losing time now. Was it last week when we visited 2 weeks ago? We visited the fire stations. And so it was nice to go through and have one of our consultants go through and audit what there could be. And then they're going to put back together a report to show what kind of savings can happen at those particular facilities. Now, saying that, that's a critical center, right? And then the benefit is that you get a lot of efficiency out of those particular buildings if you do something, given the fact that they're 24 hours operational facilities. For project completion, will help you with project coordination and support to finalize any sort of documents that are necessary. And then the next one, celebrity success, celebrate success, celebrity success as well. We'll spread the word about your leadership and achievements through case studies, check presentations, other community outreach. And then just keep in mind, like I mentioned, the savings that you guys would be getting on any kind of project is going to be at minimum 4 times than what it used to be. Next slide, and let's hand it over to you, David.
Thank you very much, Jacob. And as Jacob mentioned, I lead the IREN Codes and Standards program, and this is a direct result of the work that I did sitting on your side of the table for many years. And be careful what you look at as a sustainability commissioner, because it could turn into a full-time job, as it has very much for me. So the Codes and Standards program is, we work closely with local building departments and building industry to support, train, and enable long-term streamlining of energy code compliance. So maybe just a step back, what is the energy code? So that's part of the California Code and Regulations, and it's one of the chapters in what we call Title 24, which is the various building codes, and it's enforced by essentially the building department here in Palm Springs and the other cities. And every 3 years, there's a new energy code. So for the moment, the Energy Commission has just proposed what we call the 2025 Energy Code. That will be voted by the Energy Commission at its August business meeting and go into effect on January 1, 2026. Currently, we're in what's called the 22 Code, and that will run for another 1.5 years. So every 3 years, it's a moving target. We have a new code and more things to train people about. So we have a dynamic and targeted set of programs to assist local government agencies in better understanding and enforcing the energy code. So specifically in the Codes and Standards program, we support local jurisdictions, building departments such as the one here in Palm Springs to identify potential issues and guidance to permit applicants and streamlining the permit process. So one of our features is ask a code mentor. And so you can go to the IREN website and ask an energy code question about the interpretation of a 600-page code with all sorts of appendices. And we'll dig through all of the materials and then provide within 48 hours to business days a response of sort of how to sort of interpret the code. So this is my role as a former lawyer. I love 600-page codes. Very much into that, which is why I got this job, I think. Then we engage and support local builders and building industry to comply with the energy code. And that's in educating informers, contractors, and building professionals in the Inland Empire. And then finally, we provide regional tools, training, and resources to promote the energy code. In that respect, we serve as a bridge between the statewide Codes and Standards program, which is a consortium of the 3 investor-owned utilities, plus Los Angeles Department of Water and Power and Sacramento Municipal Utilities District, and the local industry by bringing together best practices and sharing them through locally relevant sources, materials, regional forums, and trainings. And a perfect example is tomorrow morning from 9 to 12, when we have our very first IREN regional forum, demystifying the energy code, and our own LP McCloy will be speaking about her experience here in Palm Springs about developing the REACH code, and then I'll also be speaking about that. And that's an area that we're working very, very closely with LP in Juliet in developing potential REACH codes. And I guess in the coming months, you'll be seeing me back again once we have a little bit more of a concrete proposal. And the objective is to have Palm Springs serve as a regional template so that once we get something through the Palm Springs Sustainability Commission, yourselves and City Council, then we can offer that up as a regional model. So it's really from Palm Springs to the rest of the Inland Empire. And I want to thank LP and the commissioners for your work in supporting that effort. And then we have, of course, monthly trainings. Once a month, we've got a deep dive into a really, really intricate subject of the energy code. Next week, it's on HVAC compliance and things like that. It's really good for building departments and contractors. Anyway, some developed programs, they're all free, as are all the other IREN materials, and it's a delight to work with, LP and Juliet. And you'll be seeing me again with more about information about those programs in the coming months.
Perfect. Next slide. So now on to workforce education and training.
Yeah.
We will support various workforce education and training programs to encourage and realize energy efficiency goals across all sectors. This program provides training tools and opportunities for diverse participants in disadvantaged communities to pursue career opportunities in energy and efficiency. IREN plans to deploy up to 27 fellows every year to support the public sector agencies and their energy efficiency initiatives within municipal operations through outreach and engagement within these communities. One thing I want to highlight as well, I'd like to steal some of my counterparts' thunder that works at Western Riverside Council of Governments. One piece of information that he latched onto and I kind of took from him is in the next 10 years, like the four out of every 10 new jobs is going to be electricity related. And so we want to be able to have that kind of supply in terms of employees that we could hire and get them excited about what they're doing. I like to, kind of tell some of them who've been jumping on, like my background is in business administration and accounting and in finance. But I like to say that, it's basically about looking at the books. You have both sides of the equation, meaning that you have your energy efficiency side and you have your demand management side, and you got to kind of make it work because you don't have all the energy access as you may want. And then of course it comes at a cost. So it's kind of balancing it of what can we do in terms of energy efficiency, allowing for more supply to be had. So that way you guys could open up, other types of businesses here in the community. So with that, we'll go ahead and go forward. The training education again. We want to establish local partnerships. Next, assess training resources currently available. Next, support providers to train the trainers on energy efficiency topics and trends. Next. Again. And then we want to connect local companies to develop appropriate job pathways, develop energy efficiency training programs, energy training for job pathways, and foster connections between industry workforce development organizations. Next. Help job seekers find employment in energy efficiency, collaborate with employees to providing continuing education. And then, as mentioned earlier, regarding the IREN Fellows program, we pay them $34,000 of living allowance for working approximately 1,700 hours. This and gives them a $10,000 educational award upon completion of the fellowship. Not to mention the real life hands-on training and experience they received. Some of our fellows have just come out of college, and as some of us know who, particularly myself, you know, you get that degree and you come out and you're like, okay, I got my degree. And then you get in that endless circle of, okay, well, where's your experience? Well, I don't have experience. I got my degree. So we were able to get a couple of fellows that were exactly in that same situation. So now they're going to be more marketable once they're done with the program. With that, that's all I have for the presentation. You could go to the next one. Again, Jacob Alvarez, one more time. It's frozen. Jacob Alvarez, any questions that I can help with?
Are there any questions for Jacob or David?
Chair, if I may just really briefly underline a couple of points that they made in the presentation. So, you know, we are really excited to have the Inland Regional Energy Network here in the Riverside and San Bernardino counties. You know, RENs have been around for 15 years across the state. And so ours is, I refer to it as baby. It's getting, you know, it's really kind of, it's been exciting to watch Jacob and David, you know, build the program and provide so many great offerings, particularly for municipalities. You know, I don't know what we would do without David's support on reach codes and things like that. You know that, and, you know, Jacob has provided really amazing support as we're working on, you know, we have Juliet, who's an IREN fellow. We're really grateful for that. And also working on some of our public buildings work, which I'll talk a little bit more about later today. So just wanted to thank them for joining us and for supporting the work that we're doing here. And we're hoping to continue to be able to be a regional template and help some of our neighbor cities do some of this work too.
Question. So is the entry level for these fellowships, do they have to have a degree already, or what stage of education would they be in?
They would have to have at least the AA at minimum.
Mhm.
If they're in the position where, let's say, like right now, they're finishing off their last semester and they're about to go that route, we would have like, it would be a decision like we would allow the Civic Spark. We guide them over to Civic Spark, who's the ones that are actually paying them utilizing IRA money, but on a case-to-case basis, they would look at them and go, oh, okay, yeah, you're doing fine, we'll go ahead and allow.
Thank you.
A question. You basically are saying that Palm Springs or region is actually working as we're the template. When you presented this to other cities, correct? I mean, like Indio, and you guys are working with all those other jurisdictions, correct?
Yes.
And basically, they're all on board and helping you guys do this, not just Palm Springs, correct?
That's correct. So this funding goes, each city is available to have utilize this funding. For Indio, Coachella, and La Quinta, it's a little bit different because they're IID.
Yeah.
But they are the gas side, so they are able to get the benefits from the gas side, and utilize the trainings and utilize the fellows if they want them. But everyone has access to these same programs. And so I'm working with each of the cities everyone's at a different scenario because every staff is a bit different. Some of them, like LP, are out there, and like Indian Wells is one of the first ones that jumped on. Palm Desert is right there too. So it just depends on what level. City of Indio's council member Ortiz is the vice chair of IREN at the executive board. So he's always interested on what's going on. So essentially, oh, and then also we can't forget Blight. So
Yeah.
all of our jurisdictions are participating in this in one way or another.
all of them, Coachella.
Yeah.
So that was just basically the question.
And the objective, once we have the Palm Springs Reach Code, that can be shared with all of the other cities. The advantage of all of the CVAG area, the 9 cities plus Blythe, as Jacob mentioned, are all in what's called climate zones 15. California is divided into 16 climate zones. We're all in climate zone 15, sort of the low desert area. So an ordinance that we're going to be working on in the next couple of months for Palm Springs literally can be copied and pasted in just about every city in the Coachella Valley. And that would be for existing buildings, energy efficiency. So the core objective, you pull a building permit, you have to do some additional, depending on the amount of the permit, do some additional energy efficiency upgrades, insulation, potentially heat pump, et cetera. So that ordinance can very well serve as a template, pretty much turnkey for any of the other cities that want to adopt it. So here's, once again, IREN working very closely with the city of Palm Springs, with the commissioners, eventually city council, to serve as a regional sort of lead.
Okay,
And then I'll jump in as well. This is my second stint with CVAG. I actually worked there before from 2008 to 2013. And so I was part of the staff who helped work and do like climate action plans, the Green for Life climate action plans, which you guys have, energy action plans for the facilities. We did benchmarking work. So me coming back, I actually kept a lot of my old data and going through and meeting with the cities with new staff, or some staff that just didn't know that they had any of the data at all. I'm able to go back and give it all back to them. So we're kind of re-putting the puzzle piece back together. And it's kind of great because some of these staffs have, like, you're lucky you have LP who's singularly focused on a wide range of sustainability, but in some cities, those staffs are, okay, that's a hat of mine, and I have economic development to do, and I have grants to do and other stuff. So when they have, you know, my assistance to be able to go, oh, no, you guys have done this work, here's some history, here's some backup. And we'll be letting folks know soon that we actually are gonna do a whole nother set of climate action plans for all the cities again that we got funding for. It gets them excited because they know that there's some sort of help and some sort of leadership that's able to provide and make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page and that we're accounting for all the greenhouse gases for the entire valley rather than, you know, a hodgepodge mix of greenhouse gas inventories.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, I have a question. So when we are, sorry, I missed the beginning. When you guys are providing this education and training, what is the main focus? Is it on energy audits or retrofitting the existing buildings? Because I came into Palm Springs in 2020 and I wanted to do an energy audit for my house. And unfortunately, there is nobody doing it. And when I asked for somebody from other city, they basically asked me like 3 times the price, and I'm still waiting. Somebody saying, okay, we can do energy audits in the valley. So
Through there, this goes back to the 2013 Jacob. There's actually, you could go on the EPA's website on Energy Star, and it'll give you like a process of like a walkthrough of how to go ahead and do like an energy audit of your home. Second, we're doing trainings with the public and the, you know, our cities on how to do some of this stuff. But more importantly, we're working with, it's called the Inland Empire Desert Regional Consortium. I had to go real slow with that. And essentially what it is Riverside Community College has this consortium, which is all the San Bernardino and Riverside County colleges. And we as IREN had just recently put out an RFP at the end of last year and got under contract with them, along with, this one will be a weird one, Chino Chamber of Commerce, to essentially look at what we're doing and fill gaps. So one thing that they'll go ahead and do, and they'll say, okay, you know, what kind of jobs are needed and what kind of students do we have, and can we mirror those students with those jobs? The funny part of it, when I was going through the process, is when you look at community colleges or universities, a lot of times they'll say, oh, well, you're going to transition from, you know, being this student who just graduated into a job, and they'll have those numbers. But a lot of times it's those students just kind of falling into the employment line and going, okay, where am I going to go? And in this case, you know, I was kind of iffy when we were before reviewing the contract and looking at it and going, you colleges should be already doing this, right? And so then I see RCC in there and I'm wondering, well, why would we want to give it to you if you should be doing it on your own? But after I reviewed their RFP, their proposal was actually a really solid proposal. And then I had the aha moment of like, of me as an agency, do I want some, you know, consultant, or do I want another agency telling me how to do my business? And so in that, when I was looking at the consortium, I'm looking at the consortium through the eyes of, no, this is them telling themselves, this is what we're learning, and we want to have that better interaction between students and places of employment where we can mirror those students with those jobs. So with that, there's gonna be holes, right? And you found one of them. But that's where we need to figure out utilizing this funding to go, okay, now how do we go and fill and plug those holes? And so that's kind of something, we just had one kickoff meeting last week with College of the Desert, and our cities that LP attended. And it was kind of, you know, it's going in and trying to figure out that information and then, okay, coalescing it together and going, okay, this is the steps that we need to do.
And you mentioned for the fellowship, associate's degree is the minimum, right?
Associate's degree, yes.
But is there a way like you guys can do something about it? Because I usually go to Desert Mirage High School, like now I am understanding that every high school focuses on one area, like whether it's agriculture, whether it's like woodwork or something.
Or nursing or.
Yeah, Desert Mirage High School is focusing on energy. Their science teacher is more into like energy efficiency. He has like a geothermal system mini in their lab. So how can we leverage that? Because it's already there. Some high school kids are interested in doing that. As you mentioned, if somebody is in their last semester and you guys are like reviewing their application, is there a way you can go to the schools that are focusing on energy efficiency and talk to them, hey, this is a program, because they don't know that these programs exist. And that's where I'm seeing the huge gap. There are beautiful programs like, this is the third kind of fellowship I found this week after Climate Action, Civic Spark, California Volunteer. There's like, there are so many fellowships and students just don't know about that.
And sometimes, to be honest, we don't know about that particular program. Like I knew vaguely a little bit because we used to hear in Palm Springs, do a Southern California Energy Summit. And then it became the Southern California Energy and Water Summit. And I know Desert Hot Springs does one. They have a group of kids who do stuff built around windmills. But I forgot about the Desert Mirage one. I'll take that back to our IREN folks and see, you know, again, looking at it as education, looking at it as workforce development. And there may be something there where it may not necessarily be a fellowship, but maybe something we could tie in with that education and training.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Walker, you've raised a very interesting question, as LP knows, in my once again, and I think Chair Clark and perhaps Chair Vice Chair Barrett will remember a couple of years ago, I worked with the commission to adopt a energy efficiency rebate program, which I believe is still on the books. And it's exactly the problem that you noted, which is you can get $100 rebate to have somebody come in your house and do the energy audit, but there's nobody here to do the energy audit. So probably all of the $10,000 is still available. So a small piece of good news is last year, the California Public Utilities Commission, which funds IREN and the other regional energy networks for your electric and gas bills, so we're all paying for that, approved a program with our sister agency, Bay Area Regional Energy Network, and they're going to be taking the lead to specifically train people to do the Department of Energy Home Energy Score Audit program. So you have to get certified. There's a DOE certification. And so there's specific funding for that program. And I know the Bayren team quite well. I'll make sure that when that program rolls out, you know, hopefully later this year, that they make sure that they're covering also our area, because we have nobody who's available to do it. There's a couple of private sort of home inspectors when you go and do your sort of, you'll buy your house, you can get an energy sort of audit, and that will qualify. But the main program is completely unavailable because there's nobody trained, certified to do it. So you've identified a gap where the Sustainability Commission has a program, the Office of Sustainability, and nobody is available to take advantage of it because there are no certified auditors. So thank you for doing that. It's an area of focus that we're actually working on.
Yeah, and it's just piggyback with it. I went to the Energy Commission website. That's when I found all these programs, and I found like to have a heat pump or to change your energy efficiency. There is like tax credit right now, but we don't know how long it's going to be there. But because we don't have fundamentally an energy auditor, people cannot access all those things, and it's been already 4 years. So I'm like, please just get me one energy auditor.
Jacob, you might want to mention, it's still rolling out, but the building decarbonization program with that'll come out in the equitable building decarb program. It's a while in now, but that might help a little bit.
Yeah, so the CEC, is it California Energy Commission? I always call it something, Energy Commission. Is in the process of putting out an RFP to provide, was it 500 billion?
It's it's a couple $100 million. It's a couple $100 million.
Yeah, so it's like $500 million for all the state of California, divided up into 3 sections. This other section will get something like $300 to $400 million to do equitable decarb, which is essentially, one, they're trying to encourage to limit your use on swapping out, let's say a stove, swapping out a water heater that's a gas appliance, also clothes dryer. And then it goes along with basically your weatherization type, measures. So I think that should be coming out in July, and then we should be hearing something by the end of the year. Basically, it's almost as if it's not a question of, since it's a grant, a weird grant, it's essentially what they're doing is they're looking for a provider. And the provider, whether SoCal Ren is one that we think that's probably most likely going to get it. We're a part of SoCal Ren, so we'll benefit from it. But again, even if they don't get it, someone else does, that money's still there. It's still going to be applied to the region. There's that benefit. And then something that kind of happened quietly was the federal EPA released a $5 billion grant for carbon pollution reduction grant program. And so as a part of the MSA, I'm gonna go into acronyms again, which is the Metropolitan Statistical Area. The only reason why you would need to know that is because you work at CVAG. It basically is made up of Riverside and San Bernardino County. And so there was we went after $200 million. And that was to go after a zero emissions infrastructure for light duty vehicles. Same thing as what we're doing here, which is in public facilities, or doing a building decarb, which is for public facilities. And basically what I did on my side was looked at the CEC. So that way, if we ended up getting the CEC is going to get actually implemented, and if we were happen to get this program, then the programs would mirror each other, so we're not selling 2 different programs. And then I included in terms of that particular EPA program was solar and battery storage, which the CEC encourages but doesn't allow for in their program. So if it was the best of both worlds, what we would like to see is utilizing the CEC money to do the decarb and the weatherization, and then using the federal money to go then put free solar and battery backup. And again, that we kind of highlighted the resiliency in that, because if power was to go out, folks would at least be able to utilize the battery backup for a while, or in other situations, if we have a major heat event, and we need to pull, we need to reduce the amount of consumption that we're doing during those heat events to keep from a brownout or a blackout, then those folks that have the battery storage could switch on over for, hopefully an hour or 2. To help us all get through. So not only does it make them resilient, but it makes the whole area resilient from blackout or brownout.
And we will definitely be talking about all those things more once those programs come to a little bit more maturity. So
Yes.
next couple months.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Appreciate it.
We look forward to more follow-up information.
Definitely.
Let's see, do we have anybody on Zoom?
It's one person.
So, Well, the next item on the agenda is public comments, and because I'd like to ask first if our visitor or anybody, the person on Zoom has any public comments. If not, then we'll just proceed to the next item in the agenda. None from our visitor in the room. Probably not on Zoom either. So, okay. Thank you. The next item in the agenda is Chair's comments, and I have a few things that I wanted to bring up. Last week I received a letter from Julie Warren from the library. You'll remember she made a request for funding for some bicycles, purchased bicycles for the summer reading program. She did report that they have purchased bicycles for the program. Several bicycles, different sizes for different ages, and also helmets and locks. The limit was not to exceed $1,500, and they spent $1,435 on the bicycles. Just like to remind you, the drawing will be on July 24th at 10:30 in the library. We'll probably remind you again before that, but it's a really nice event when the children and their families are there, and many of them receive bicycles and other prizes. One other thing I wanted to bring up is that Mayor Bernstein and Councilmember Holstage have formed a Parks and Recreation Task Force. And what that was formed to do is to address things not in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan is going to deal with addressing amenities and things like that, additional facilities, whereas the task force is going to address things as like safety, access, technology, functionality, and sustainability in the parks. And there are, in the task force, there are members from a lot of different organizations across the city, like Parks and Recreation, Measure J, Mizell Center, 1PS, and Sustainability. And LP, Director McCloy, and I are both members of that task force. We've had one meeting so far. I'm not sure what the next meeting will be, but there'll be some interesting things to discuss, and it's important that they have highlighted the importance of sustainability in the parks. And speaking of the parks and recs, there was one meeting, I think in March, for the master plan. I think several people here attended that meeting. The next meeting is going to be tomorrow evening at 5:30 at the James O. Jesse Desert Island Unity Center. And one other thing is that, see, some of you may have watched or attended the city council meeting on May 9th. There was a discussion at that meeting about city boards and commissions, including discussion about the roles of commissioners, support and guidance for commissioners, and so forth. The city staff is going to develop a plan on how to address these things. And they may include council points of contact for each commission and enhanced training for commissioners. So we'll probably be hearing more about that in the future, but that was the first time that it was brought up and discussed at a council meeting. And if you haven't seen it, you can always go back and watch the video. And this is also in the director's report, but on June 17th, the commissioner and council dinner will be held at the convention center. There was one 2 years ago, and this is the first one since then. Hope
Should all
everybody-
receive an email. I received the email
Yes.
yesterday.
Yes, that's a good point. I think I just got mine today.
I was in on that meeting last, 2 years ago, and it was interesting to meet the other commissions and see how much difference there is. So it's worth going to.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is subcommittee reports, and the first one is Standing Committee on Waste Reduction. Vice Chair
Okay.
Barrett.
Okay, the first thing actually for the subcommittee on waste reduction is our next meeting. LP is out of town on the day that would be our next meeting in early June. And so, did you get a
So-
response?
We had an exact split in terms of the two dates that were proposed for the previous Thursday and the following Thursday. It was 50-50. So between May 30th and June 13th.
So,
With two people said May 30th and two people said June 13th.
and I didn't vote.
No, you didn't vote. So how did I get 2 and 2?
Did,
Yes, I did.
you did, okay.
You voted.
Yeah, and I would
didn't.
vote for June, I would vote for the 30th.
Okay, then I think for the 30th. Okay, so then I think that pushes us over to the 30th, and then Commissioner Walker, if you'd be willing to participate remotely,
Yeah.
Zoom, we can do that. Yep, so
So we can do the 30th.
we can,
Okay, good.
That's May.
May 30th, yep.
Okay. All right, then the other thing, we had a long presentation from Ned Barker, who has previous experience with food waste and some experience with foodware issues. And he talked about programs that had happened in the past and some possibilities about those. It's a point of discussion that we'll do in the next Scour meeting as to whether or not we want to advance anything from his presentation up to this commission. So I'm not going to do anything along those lines today. The other thing, lost my notes. We continue to talk about 1383. We will be doing that. We talked a fair amount about the shredding and e-waste event, shredding e-waste and bulk event, as is in the staff report. It was a little too successful. We ran out of shredding capacity, which was good. It generally went well. As always, there are conflicts, mainly traffic conflicts, or we think they're mostly traffic conflicts. And I didn't see in your report, are we going to discuss further traffic or not?
Not today, but
Some
eventually.
options, like a new location.
Yes, eventually, but not today.
Okay, yeah, no, we'll do that in Scour, yeah. So that will be the thing in Scour about that, is it possible, some considerations of new locations. Okay, that's it from the Scour report.
Any questions?
I had a question on the chair's report.
I haven't given it yet.
Say what?
Isn't
I
that-
thought-
yeah.
No,
The
Oh, the
one-
chair's report,
Yeah.
not the subcommittee
Yeah.
report.
can we do that?
Sure, I'm sorry.
It's actually not a question. There are a lot of complaints about the swimming pool. Do those, you divided between the committee that, the project to redo the parks. And then there's another committee.
That's right, a task force.
Where would that, these are about the capacity of the swimming pool.
If it's,
I'm hearing them, that's why, I mean, it's not a
I
sustainability
guess
issue.
my interpretation is if it's about capacity, that probably would be for the master plan, because the
Okay.
master plan is looking at
Right.
facilities and amenities.
Okay, all right,
There
So-
is currently a survey open for the Parks Master Plan right now. I believe it's parksmasterplan.org
yeah,
or something
yeah,
like that. We can send the link, or if you go to any of the city's social media pages, you'll see a link for that survey. So it's pretty in-depth. They're looking for a statistically significant sample size, so they are encouraging a lot of people to take that survey. So if you have thoughts about the pool capacity or different things like that, I'd encourage everyone to take that survey if you haven't already.
Thank you. If no other questions on waste reduction, the next subcommittee report is, now I'm giving the standing subcommittee on climate action. The report from that meeting, which was held on May 18th, was distributed with the materials for this meeting. And we had a very good discussion with representatives from Sunline Transit. There were 4 executives at the meeting, including their CEO and general manager. And I tried to include a lot of the important points from the discussion in the report, so hopefully you've read it. But just like to emphasize a couple of things that I thought really stood out. And one was that they emphasized that developing a sense of place is important. Residents should really know what the bus routes are, where the bus stops are, and where they can go on a bus or a microtransit vehicle. Right now, there's a perception that people really don't know where the bus routes are and where they can go. So I thought that was a very important point that they made, and I think it's going to be the theme of improvements going forward. And secondly, Sunline is going to perform a comprehensive operations analysis during the next year to understand where people live, what their special needs are, demographics, and public engagement. They did perform such an analysis in 2019, but the pandemic really slowed them down in terms of being able to make any improvements. So they're going to do this analysis starting sometime soon and throughout the next year. And in the meeting, we also had a discussion about air quality and continuing discussion about air quality And the subcommittee recommended linking and displaying SCAQMD, that's South Coast Air Quality Management District, air quality information to the Palm Springs Engage website, basically making that information that people can get on their phones, on apps and so forth, available through the Engage website as well. And we also recommended pushing out alert information on bad air quality days. So there was an action taken by Director McCloy and to look into that further. And so we'll be discussing that at the next meeting. And that's all I have on the subcommittee. Are there any questions?
Just one.
Whoops. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. One of the things that we also talked about is the lack of information about the supplemental kinds of opportunities for transportation, not having to go to an actual bus stop. And we heard some things we had no idea about. For example, you could order 2 days in advance and designate a pickup location, and there are already planned routes that are frequently used. But you can do that, you have to pay for it, of course, but for someone who doesn't have a vehicle at all, and that gets to one of the things that we were concerned about having to walk 10 minutes or 15 minutes in 122-degree temperatures. This kind of a service would really help out a lot of people who are sensitive to the weather conditions or the the quality of the air conditions also.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Thank you. Another question?
Actually, I'd back up slightly with what Kathy just said, is that there's far too little information about it has a slightly different name, the on-call system.
I believe that's Sunride.
Sunride, right, yeah, and I know from having volunteered at myself, it's used very heavily by people they somehow learn how to use it. Of course, it may be that Mizell helps educate them with that, but that seems to be something that we might want to talk about more. Transportation is, the other thing was that, in the report mentions, asking sustainability about a survey of the number of EVs and where people are charging and those sorts of things. That was in the report from your committee, which I think was.
I didn't read it, I'm sorry, I just sent it.
There was okay, I think I read the same report.
Maybe it was in her.
Oh, actually, no, it's in,
That's my report.
Staff.
is it in your report?
I mean, we want to do that,
Okay.
so maybe it was
Okay,
fine.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'll pause until LP goes. She's not an EV.
Contrary to popular belief.
Question?
So I have a question about the Sunride service. Is that a public service, privately owned? How does that work?
Sunlight. service.
So maybe I can I'll very quickly summarize the 3 types of Sunline service that currently exist, at least to our knowledge, and because I agree, getting more information on the record about this is helpful. So there's Sunline, which is the bus, normal bus, does bus. There is Sundial, which is the paratransit service, which is available for people with disabilities or people who qualify for that service under a variety of different medical things. And then there is Sunride, which is a point-to-point microtransit service, which augments the existing bus. That is a public service. It's run by Sunline. So they have a separate app for Sunride, which you can go through the Sunline website and download that app. The pricing is a little bit more than a bus ride, but it's pretty similar. I want to say it's maybe $1 more than a bus ride. I want to say the hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And what it is mostly useful for is connecting to the arterial bus routes or going to locations within their service territory here in Palm Springs. And that is a public service.
The reason I ask is I also work out of Mizell and people make appointments with me. So say my appointment's at 10:30.
Yeah.
They pick them up at 10:30 instead of getting them there.
Oh, sure.
So I just kind of wonder what kind of quality and control.
That's a good question. I'm not a heavy user of that one. I've used other microtransits from other cities, transit agencies, and I think you gotta give yourself some buffer, is my understanding, at least in my experience, but I'm not super familiar with the details of it. But maybe worth playing around with and, downloading it and seeing if you can get to Mizell using it and you know, what time it picks you up.
Most people I'm seeing don't know how to use a smartphone.
Yeah, sure.
Computer, so
Well, that's why you're seeing you, probably.
And one comment that we got, or one answer we got to another question was, if the Sunline service is late, doesn't do what it's supposed to do, people should contact Sunline and give them feedback. So perhaps that's something you could encourage
I'll let them-
people to do. That's right. And just to put this into context, the reason we have the meeting with Sunline was that we're trying to identify ways to get people out of cars. That's one of the main goals of the Climate Action Subcommittee. And so learning more about what Sunline is trying to do and perhaps working with them in the future will help that. And the previous month, we had a meeting or a presentation from somebody from the CB Link talking about their progress. And again, it was for the same reason, to learn more about the CB Link, how useful it can be to help people get out of their cars. So that's really the goal of the Climate Action Subcommittee. So, are there any more questions, comments? No, then we'll move to the director's report.
Okay, hello, everyone. So you all saw the report, which is not as long this time as it has been, so I didn't prepare a summary because it was kind of short. Couple of key things I just wanted to highlight, but happy to take questions about anything that you saw in the report, or anything you didn't see in the report that you want to see. So again, as Chair Clark mentioned, there will be the commissions and council dinner on June 17th. You know, from everyone who's talked to me about it, it sounds like a great event. Some of you saw the email earlier today, so some of what I'm gonna say is gonna be duplicative, but again, you know, there's a dinner from 5 to 6 p.m., which is only open to commissioners, council, and staff. And then there is a meeting portion, which comes at 6 p.m., which is also open to the public because literally every commission and the council all have quorum, so it's technically a public meeting. So it will be a public official meeting of our commission, technically, because you'll all be in the same place. But each commission will give a short presentation, which I will be working with you, Chair Clark, to go through that template. It's like a 4-slide template, basically. And they want to talk about accomplishments of the commission over the past year. So I'll let the commissioners kind of decide how you all want to handle it. I think the direction we've received is that chairs should deliver the presentation to keep it kind of moving quickly. And my anticipation is that we will go in alphabetical order, and so therefore we will be last, unfortunately. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. That might happen, but so that's kind of the general outline of that event. Yes, we'll be the dessert, of course. Yes, Commissioner.
I remember from 2 years ago that some of the reports were very, very long.
I believe that's why they've provided an extremely strict template of 4 slides only. But yes, good to know.
No fine print.
Yeah, no fine print, yeah. We just get like, you know, 4 score and 7 years ago, like, et cetera. So one thing that I neglected to add in here and that I have just remembered is that we will be taking an item to the city council on Thursday, but it is the annual delinquent waste billing charges cycle. So every year here in Palm Springs, every property is required to have trash service here. If a bill is not paid for a period of a year or more, then that can be transferred over to your property tax roll. We do have some people here in Palm Springs, some property owners who kind of prefer to pay it that way. So technically it has to show up as delinquent first, and then it moves over to the property taxes, and then it's automatically paid through the property taxes, unfortunately, as a property lien. So we have an annual process where we go through and open the floor for a public hearing, because we have to do a public hearing before anything gets transferred over as a lien or through the property taxes. We've had a number of people reach out after receiving those notices to pay those bills. We initially estimated it was about 750 properties that were eligible to go onto the tax roll. I believe we've probably gotten payments and sort of stuff out for about 150 of those, so it will be less, but we also have a number of people who every year just kind of wait for their bills to go over like this, and that's just kind of how they pay it. So we'll be doing the public hearing for that on Thursday evening. Any questions about that? Yes. Commissioner Alexander Zenberg.
So when you say the word lien,
Mhm.
it doesn't show up on the homeowner's credit report or anything like that.
So it does show up if you're working to sell the property. And so we have to work to clear the lien. So I will be honest, it's not my favorite process that we do. It's a little, it's kind of clunky, kind of on all sides, but generally speaking, pretty easy for us to clear those once those get paid. So it's usually 1 or 2 cycles of the property tax. The bills are usually relatively, compared to other things on your property tax, relatively small. So usually in the right, like about $500 range. So a lot of people do clear those with us in advance. Most of what we see going on to the property taxes is people who prefer to pay it that way.
Yeah, it's just if you're in the middle of escrow or
Right.
something in the bank.
It is, yeah, and so I get calls when people are trying to sell their homes, from, escrow agents at, 10 p.m. at night, being like, oh my God, we gotta clear this thing, and I'm like, well, I got steps, and so, it's not ideal from a workflow perspective. I know it's something that they looked at a little bit when they did the previous franchise update, but that was before I got here. In terms of they looked at the potential of actually moving all of the waste fees over to the property tax bill, which is how a number of cities actually do it. Like Desert Hot Springs does it that way, for example. So that way it's not really a lien, it's just part of property tax.
Tax rolls over to the tax. It
Exactly.
Sounds better than.
So yeah, it's kind of, it's everybody, there's pros and cons to each approach. So, but yes, that is a process that we go through with individual properties if they want it through that. That's good.
I had seen that you had said the team is engaged in removing lanes.
Oh,
Does
yeah,
that mean the entire department is working on this?
no, it means me. And our
This
future
seems
waste person will be
like-
having.
This seems like an odd task for us to have to be doing.
It is one of the tasks that comes as a result of us being the managing department for the waste franchise.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, we have a few tasks like that where because we oversee the waste franchise, because of its impact in our sustainability work, and because that's also one of the major funding sources for our team, we kind of carry the administrative work as well that comes with managing that franchise. So it's part of the reason why, which is my next bullet point, I'm excited to hire a full-time specialist to oversee waste, which will be doing soon. But yeah, there's some like there's some extra things that kind of come along with that being one of them that we do. Look under the hood. Any other questions about trash sharing? Okay, oh, yes, go ahead.
About this or about?
This, I'm just gonna finish my other two
Yeah.
bullets and then we'll go to the full report. So just quickly, we are going to be, we've just welcomed Ben, which has been great. Ben's been here for like 6 weeks now.
Yeah.
You keep coming back. It's great. I'm really excited about that. It's awesome. Yeah, not yet. And first desert summer coming up. So, but Ben's spent a lot of time in Palm Springs. So Ben knows. We are going to be bringing on at least one additional person to the team here soon. I say at least one because there's a question mark around a second who's going to sit over with the airport actually. A climate specialist who will sit on their team, but I don't know the timing of that, so I do not really want to talk about it today because we can talk about it more later. But we'll be doing hiring here soon for a waste specialist to oversee everything related to 1383, manage the franchise, et cetera. So very excited to bring that person on board. So I will let the commission know when we have a posting available. So if anyone knows any candidates who you think might be a good fit, who we should talk to, please feel free to share that with them at that time. And then finally, so Jacob from IREN alluded to this a little bit. One of the new big projects that Juliet and I have been really busy with that you'll see in the report is planning for city building energy efficiency upgrades. So that includes looking at all of our energy bills. We did some audits of the fire stations, learned some great things about, which buildings maybe are more exemplary versus ones that need some work. So that's been a big area of work. I know that's something a number of commissioners have been interested in. So we'll probably have more to share about that when we get our energy action plan back from IREN later this summer, but wanted to just flag that as a new thing that we're up to. And with that, I will now open for questions. So Commissioner Barry or Vice Chair Barry, some questions.
Okay, I was mainly was just going to say there's a number of things that are very encouraging to see in there, so I'm glad to see that, some of the discussion of, for example, moving, to wastewater to one of the parks.
Oh, recycled water is Sunrise Water.
Yeah, and also that, there's actually plans for turf conversion for City Hall's grounds.
It's true. Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing that.
Yeah.
I did have a question of, could you put a note somewhere about charger types before you use the?
Yes, I apologize. Sorry. Thank you. You've mentioned that before and I didn't. I apologize.
And then this is almost unrelated, but there's a question about whether or not Walmart will do electricity. I think they're building a gas station out there, and that might be where they're gonna do chargers.
Yeah, so just for folks' awareness, so a lot of Walmarts have fast chargers with Electrify America in them. We get a lot of questions, and I think actually maybe some commissioners have actually gotten questions about the Electrify America chargers that are at the Bank of America. So we do not manage those chargers.
Right.
I get complaints about them. They're very popular because particularly because a lot of car manufacturers give 1 to 2 years of free Electrify America when you buy a new EV. which means a lot of people who are buying these like cool new cars, and Volkswagen does it, a number of different car manufacturers will provide that. And so a lot of people want to use that, and means they're really popular, and there's only 3 of them, and that parking lot's been under construction for a year, so that site's a little tricky. I wouldn't be surprised if EA tries to expand here, but I know they do have some chargers at the India Walmart, so just for everybody's background.
And then my question about surveys and who's using EVs, that actually comes from the committees, the subcommittee's
Okay,
report.
okay, got it. I was just like, did I say that? Maybe I did.
I just found it.
Got it.
In any case, it says a survey of EVs,
Yes,
and I'm concerned about surveying PHEVs also.
yes, definitely.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll make sure that whenever we kind of dig into that a little bit further, just to understand really where, and so there's a number of different cities that are going through EV master plans right now.
Mhm.
Because it's kind of, and I think I've mentioned this before, we're sort of at an inflection point in the charging sector, I would say. So, you know, Tesla laid off everybody who works on superchargers, which is kind of a bummer, because that was a great program for a lot of people. We'll see what happens. You know, cities have been providing EV chargers for 10, 12 years in some cases. And a lot more people have bought EVs over the past 3 to 5 years. So really understanding what is the role of the public sector? Like, should we be building more chargers? Should we be making it easier for property owners with big parking lots to add chargers, to add chargers? Should we, you know, what's the role and how many more chargers do we need to meet the demand? Where are people charging now? What are the pain points they have, et cetera? So that's something that we need to do some more thinking about.
yeah, for plug-in hybrids, most, as far as I know, most people don't use public chargers. But it still is important in terms of seeing how the driving public is changing.
Right.
And from what I'm reading, there is actually an increase in production from the car companies of public and hybrids, as many people are finding them to be.
Yeah, they're a
Yeah,
nice
car.
transition car. Yeah, definitely. No, we'll make sure to include that. So, thank you, Commissioner.
And that item in the report is a future discussion.
Right,
item.
yeah.
It's nothing we've talked about yet, but it's something that we will in the future.
That's one, make my plug.
Plug in hybrid
And-
plug. Thank you.
Is that a- Well, plug in.
Are there any other questions or comments on the director's report? Now then we'll move on to new business, and the first item there was one that I requested. We've heard from program coordinator Via about the new social media sites, and I requested that he actually give us a demonstration at a meeting, so I'll hand it over to him.
That's me. Hello. Okay, so what I did was I'm gonna show you guys some insights to see how many people we're actually reaching versus when we first started to now. So this is actually a video here you can watch.
Reducing traffic congestion and lowering your carbon footprint. And then with the 40 miles speed lane pathway accessible to cyclists, pedestrians, and low speed electric vehicles, there's no shortage of routes to explore and beautiful Coachella Valley. Not to mention, cycling is fantastic ways to get active and improve your overall health. So why not hop on your bike and enjoy the sunshine? Remember first, safety first, always wear a helmet, follow traffic laws, and be courteous to share the road to cyclists. Join us in celebrating National Bike Month, and then let's pedal towards a healthier, happier, and more sustainable Monterey.
So that's a familiar face, Councilmember Gardner. This was posted yesterday, as you can see on the inside. In the first 48 hours, 961 people actually saw this. So, yeah, some of us may have seen it. If you follow us, 8 people reacted to it and 2 commented. So, as you can see, when we first started, April 17, we had 3 people actually view it. It reached 20 accounts. This is on Instagram. As of now, when we post something within the first 24 hours to 48 hours, we had 186 views and 141 accounts reached. So way more than double. Same thing with Nextdoor. One of our posts for the training event was posted April 15th. It got 691. That's actually the current lead as of today. Versus we posted for migration, got 1,200. So things are pretty much doubling now with outreach into the community via social media. So I think that's a plus. We are on Instagram. Nextdoor, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. You can view all those on Linktree. We also post on Palm Springs Post, or the Civic Spark and Eventbrite. So any event we have will be posted there, so we can outreach to more people. Any questions? Yes.
So do you have Engage Palm Springs, the new website?
Yes, we are on
I
Engage Palm
didn't- I
Springs.
couldn't see- ask-
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't put it on there, but that is on our website as well.
Okay,
You actually will find it under the link tree.
okay.
Yes.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Remember, we think you and I had a conversation in reference to our Spectrum channel, government channel, and actually putting stuff on there. I noticed that we have had some changes within some of the, I want to say, the constant bulletins that come up. And I think that this would actually be a huge thing for you, so people can actually see that these Facebook, Instagram, all these are there, that they can actually go, oh, it's there. I can see that for that 30-second blurb on there, that we add that. We
Yeah.
can, we see if we can get that on there. Also, you and I talked about our doing the same thing with getting our commission meetings added,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
that's kind of important.
Yeah.
I've actually had multiple people ask me,
Oh, definitely.
you're on
Something I can work on.
sustainability. How come we don't see sustainability? It's presently not.
Got it.
They want it on either there or the accessibility onto the city's YouTube pages.
Okay.
And I will take responsibility for that. That was a handover thing that when I took my role, that was a piece that I missed in terms of uploading to YouTube. So learned about that a little later in the game. So now that Ben is here, that will be more consistently available.
We'll have our own YouTube page. Any other question?
Just speaking of adding things, how about a YouTube posting?
Yeah, we can
Some-
work on
some of the
YouTube,
people are-
YouTube channel to post all our meetings and certain things you guys want posted as well.
You know, because some of the people can't do those, but they can do the YouTube. I know it sounds.
Yeah, no, not a problem.
It's a very user-friendly platform. A lot of people love YouTube. That's it these days for some.
Anybody else?
I'm just wondering, like, when we are posting on social media, like, when we posted about the shredding event and everything, we can include our partners, like, the shredding company that helped us and the Urban Conservation Corps, maybe including our partners, tagging them in that post will get us more views because people who are related to them can see our post as well.
Yes, so that is something I've been working on more, is especially adding a lot of like the networking places to add them, especially with like Palm Springs' own personal Instagram especially. It's what I've been tagging the most. So we've gotten a lot more followers from like Coachella, La Quinta, and they've actually even sent us messages and I've been able to respond to them about certain things.
One more item.
Mhm.
Thank you for reminding me. I'm good for a shout out, and that is Desert Arc.
Yeah.
I work with them on other projects also, and Desert Arc that day was awesome. They helped us have that program, the shredding and everything. Those people there, I praised them. They're wonderful. I've actually spoken to multiple people within their offices. They want to continue to do that with us.
Great.
You probably already know that.
Yes, well, so now Palm Springs Disposal runs a shredding event, so they should touch PSDS, but I'll tell them that.
Oh, awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
Liz. Yeah.
Yes, Liz, another one of your favorite shout out.
Yeah,
recipients. Yeah, that was something, when they extended the franchise, they agreed to take on that because they're already doing the bulky item collection event and processing a lot of food waste, so they took that on. So we're still supporting, we'll still host it, but it makes certain aspects of our lives much easier.
Yeah, how often are we posting on these platforms, like when we have an event or something, or can we strategically plan some content where, hey, like the bird month or the bird day, can we post something on a regular basis? Because now I'm learning about like social media insights as well. If you have a gap between the posts, the algorithm is not gonna kick ours,
Yes.
what we posted. So we can use app like Metricool where we can schedule the content to
Mhm.
go into multiple platforms at a certain time. So maybe if we have like 30-day content, like, we are posting something every single day about sustainability, water system, whatever it might be. I think that will put us more on Nextdoor or Instagram where people will see, the algorithm will push us. So I just don't wanna like, oh, let's post whenever there is an event and we have events every 2 months. Well, the algorithm is not gonna kick us to the viewing page because we had a huge gap.
Yeah, no, of course. So something I can work on is potentially doing, I know we have climate, we have energy. So maybe one thing I can focus on is maybe like Mondays would be a post always about energy or any other event, and then maybe Wednesdays will be about climate. And that way we could just keep going, and it'll be a rotating thing, but weekly, just posting certain days for that specific topic.
We also have a number of, we had a very cute World Bee Day post the other day that I encourage you to like. Had some of Juliet's photographs in
So
there. as
does
well.
that mean we can have beehive in the backyards?
Yeah, you actually can here. Yeah, it is allowed. It's a little tricky, but it is allowed. We can talk about it. Any other questions? Okay, great. I just want to underline Ben's great work on this. None of this existed 6 weeks ago. So kudos to Ben,
Thank you.
who came in and was just like, so do we have this? And I was like, no, I'm scared. And he was like, okay, and now it's here. So it's great. Thank you.
All right. So now we'll move on to old business. And the first item there is an outbrief on Earth Day month by Director McCloy.
Okay, so I know these are both listed for 15 minutes each on the agenda. We will not be taking 15 minutes, so don't worry. Because I think a lot of this, at least in subcommittees and some various fora, you've heard a lot of this already. So I'm just gonna briefly go through some of our highlights for Earth Month 2024. So we were pretty busy, especially that week of Earth Day. Oh boy, that was, we were running. The Saturday of the shredding event, we were in 2 places at once. We had to buy a second canopy. It's been, we really expanding. So wanted to just highlight kind of 4 key buckets of things that we did this year. So one, in terms of council actions this year, we had 2 proclamations issued. So they acknowledged Earth Day and Arbor Day. Those are both useful tools in helping us get certifications like the Tree City certification and our Mayor's Monarch Pledge certification and things like that, but also highlight the value that the city council continues to place on this work. So we have 2 official proclamations for that this year. We'll probably continue to do that going forward. Probably, all these boxes are the same size because that makes my brain happy, but the thing that we did the most work of was in this community engagement blue box here. So we did host our record-breaking shredding and e-waste event. We had almost 600 people come to shred, which is a lot of people. And then we had our pre-shredding week as well, which people were able to come and drop off shredding, which I think really kind of picked up with the word of mouth toward the end of the week. And that was really popular. So I think we'll probably offer that for the future. The next shredding bonanza will be in October. We also hosted the Ask an Arborist kind of pop up at the farmer's market. Christian, I don't know if you want to say a couple words about that. I did not ask you to do that in advance, so I'm putting Christian on the spot.
Yeah, so West Coast Arborists, they had a table next to us and they were pretty busy. People came and asked questions, specific things about their trees. So I would say it went pretty well. Something we could do again in the future.
So that's kind of in service of our work to prepare for our trees program, et cetera. And then we also hosted our first stroll, spin and win event, which I'll talk about more in the next slide, because that one we have a lot of photos of. So it was kind of new activation for us. We also saw a lot of partner activation during Earth Week Earth Month this year. So Commissioner Rotner and Oswald Land Trust hosted their Dark Sky event at Duluth Community Center. I think a number of commissioners attended, which is a great way to talk about our natural environment. And, I always talk about how I kind of wish my job didn't exist, that this was just so embedded in everything. So the more I see this popping up, the happier I am. And Parks Department also hosted a planting event in the community garden. So our community garden, as you may have seen in the staff memo, is now completely full. So thanks to Christian's great work, kind of getting that revitalized, getting everything up to snuff and filling all those spots. I don't know when the last time all the community garden spots were full. So Parks was able to do they painted like little vessels for plants and they did a pollinator garden there in the community garden, which is great. And then we also did a little bit of work in furtherance of our efforts to embed our work into more departments work, Christian led a study session with the planning commission to prepare for the tree ordinance. So they had an opportunity to do that during Earth Week, which is why Christian and I were not at the Dark Sky event. But I think a good example of how we can focus other commissions' work also during Earth Week or Earth Month to talk about the ways in which they intersect with climate and sustainability. And so these are some highlights from Stroll, Spin and Win. Ben, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about this event?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Stroll, Spin and Win, a quick little recap of what it was. Essentially, people were able to walk or stroll through downtown Palm Springs. They were scanning QR codes, which led them to another destination, eventually reaching a final destination, which was at coffee. Here in the pictures, you have a the first one is a couple. They were very sweet. They spent some time talking to us and letting us know about how they lived here and how long they've lived here. The second one, we had a family that actually did it together with their son. We had skaters. Yeah, they were skaters. In the third picture, there was about 7, 10. Yeah, between 7 and 10 of them. They did it as a group of friends. And then the last one is actually I wanted to say a father and son duo. They didn't tell us they were doing it, but then we ended up seeing them scanning our posts, and then they showed up. So it was really fun. I think we had a great turnout. Not a lot of people came to eat, but a lot of people participated with the scans that it shows at the end. So I think we will definitely do this one again.
Yeah, and this is our first time, at least since I've been here, doing this kind of activation where we're getting people out into the community. We partnered with a local business, so coffee was a great partner. I think we set that up with them that week. They set up a station for us outside, had us all set. One thing we did learn is next time more cold drinks, less hot drink. Which everybody was like, can I have a juice? And we ended up buying so many extra juices.
Yeah.
Next time it'll be a big crack lemonade. And really kind of tapping into new people in the community who maybe aren't coming to the farmer's market or maybe aren't shredding. So getting people activated and exploring in a different way. So we've already been talking about some different scenarios in which we want to do this type of event again in the future. And all kudos to Ben for pulling this off and figuring out how to stick QR codes all around the city of Palm Springs, having been here for like 3 weeks. So
Thank you to Christian.
and Christian, who designed the routes. So thank you, Christian, who designed our routes for us. Exactly 45 minutes for walking and biking.
Yeah.
Very hard to do. Okay, so just talking really quickly about future Earth planning. So we are going to be doing a number of different types of events over the next year that will also probably make reappearances in Earth Month 2025. So I know we've been talking about community cleanups in one of our subcommittees, and we've gotten some interest in that. So getting that kind of back up and running, or up and running, I don't know. I'm assuming they've done them in the past, but we haven't done them, so up and running. Resource fairs. So thinking about all of the different like sustainability related resources that different groups of people might want to take advantage of. So we've got one that's kind of in the idea stages right now. And then continuing to do partnerships with other communities and groups and other folks. Almost quite did it this year, but didn't quite take off. We got really close to a bus shelter ad campaign about composting, which we might still just do. But it was kind of like, it was a little bit too many moving pieces to get that done, but we still have, we didn't do the campaign yet and it's pretty evergreen, so it's not dead yet. And so one topic that I wanted to bring for commissioner discussion today, if folks have some thoughts on this. So a number of different cities do like an Earth Day festival, right? Or, there's different events that we have here in the city where we'll have the, Veterans Day parade and it's like one thing, or like we have the 1 PS picnic and it's like one thing. But we've kind of taken a more decentralized approach to our sort of Earth Day planning, which is like Earth in everything. There's pros and cons to doing both. Part of the reason why I've shied away from one big Earth event is because that would take like all of our time for 6 months to pull something like that off at the degree I think we'd want to do that. But also the more events we have, we want to make sure that we are providing an opportunity for the community and visibility into what our sort of full stack Earth stuff looks like. So curious if commissioners have feedback on kind of this slate of events, how it went, what you would think of, many versus one, things that you would encourage us to think about or keep in mind for the future.
So it seems to me it's an important enough thing to keep reminding people and keep having events. I mean, keeping the earth healthy is isn't every day.
Yes, yeah. Or
No, it's
maybe that
okay.
we-
Oh, Monday, there's an error.
Right, yeah,
We
totally.
Do that all the time.
Sure.
It sounds like that's more work for you though, but.
Well, so it kind of depends. I mean, last year, I would say it was the only work we could kind of pull off. We could just be at everything. So last year I was just at every event in April that existed and I was like, hey, don't forget Earth. So that was easier when it was kind of a staff of one-ish, than necessarily pulling off a whole event. I think now that we have more of a team, and we want to do lots of different types of events, I think it's an interesting question that we're discussing internally, of just like, do we do a lot or one? I don't know which one is more work in.
It just seems to me many, and again, I hate to throw work at people. but
Yeah.
It just seems to me that many makes more sense where.
Yeah.
Sustainability, just by its name.
Mm.
You want to keep sustaining the health
Sure.
of the earth, and you just don't do that one day.
Yeah, great
a
point.
year.
Thank you. Next.
I will go for many Earth events, not even specifically in April only, but plan them out for us. Because during that time, I met some people when I went to another event called Tree People, where they're giving out the
I used
trees.
to work with 3 people a lot. That's why.
Yeah, and at the same time, we cannot have them giving out trees in the month of April.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna die over the summer, so we need those trees to give into our community in early January, so they can plant it and they can survive. So to me, it feels like we need to have like events, maybe not even once a month, but like every 3 months or so, that are climate appropriate, and we are talking about like different things. Like you talked about, like we posted about the bee day. That is essential for Earth as well, without the bees. But if we just connected with a local beekeeper or a local honey merchant, we could have did something that we can say, hey, this is our Earth event as well.
Sure. Yeah, I like that approach to making sure. So we're weaving, it's not sustainability on one day, and it's also connecting
Yeah.
to different aspects that might be more responsive to our climate community.
Very cool.
Go ahead.
Commissioner and then Vice Chair.
One of the members of the Sunrise Park Board said that he is also on the board of Oswald's Preserve, and that they are working on a composting project.
Okay, is that?
Did you
Yeah.
aware of that?
Yeah,
I
we are.
figured you were.
Yeah, I'm the one managing that site, so we started in last November, just to give the background. And they're accepting vegan only material at that location at this point, so you can drop off your material and we compost it. Chef Tanya became a really good partner for them when Desert Compost got the grant. So we receive material from Chef Tanya every week and we compost it. And that is not the only composting site in Palm Springs. The first site is United Methodist
Yeah.
Church, where Sustainability Commission kicked off that project
Right.
last year. And Desert Compost is continuing that with a state grant from, CCGS. And we launched My Backyard as one of the site as well. So 6 minutes away, we have 3 composting locations. If we want to do a campaign where, again, maybe with the QR codes, people can go to these different locations and kind of find out more about composting, how we are turning our food scraps into soil. Yes. Any question on that?
Well, I'm wondering, apartment dwellers might be a good target because they don't have their own personal trash and waste pickup. And so I don't know how we would do that, but it might be an audience that hasn't been tapped, and they usually aren't as community oriented. And so it seems to me it could be a very good way to pull in people to the neighborhoods even, for
Yeah.
example.
This is also something for the Sustainability Commission to think out, because the grant Desert Compost received and working right now, those grants ends with February 2025. So after that, we are like, even though I'm the site operator for 3 locations, I'm like, what after February 2025? How are these, if we are pulling in more community buy-in, we are getting more community, how are these sites going to survive after February 2025? So if we can think about that, that will be great as well, because I know United Methodist, they received funding from city.
From the grants and
Yeah.
sponsorships program,
Yeah.
which is run through the city manager's
Yeah.
office.
And we leave what the sites want to approach up to the site. So they can pick, hey, we wanna approach apartment dwellings, or we wanna receive material from these people only. Personally, I pick up material from the farmers market, from the farmers every Saturday. I'm like, this is how heat stroke feels like. Afternoon at 12 o'clock, hauling 700 pounds of orange peels. Only the orange juice farm person gives me around 700 pounds of orange peels every Saturday. Whoa. So you guys can come out and check out the compost. I'm like, that's really cool, 700 pounds in a week.
Vice Chair Barrett, you have a question?
On the question of many earth events versus one. I'm sort of similar to Ken, that you know, it's just saying that we need to be reminding people consistently. So I'm more, but we do need something for that month. Maybe we can do something that just sort of says, this is what we do.
Mhm.
And it's maybe semi-ceremonial or something that actually has a bigger presence, but much less work than you would expect.
Sure, yeah, I like where you're thinking.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, making a pronouncement is actually fairly easy to do.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and so you just arrange it, you're gonna get it into all the newspapers, and sustainability does this for you to keep us, to make sure our earth is okay. Yeah, so I would go with one big event, which does not mean ending all the other small events.
Sure, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So figuring out what do we do almost as kind of a marker, like an annual reflection moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would be wonderful if city council was saying, here's what sustainability did, and they do that Earth Month, so, okay.
Hmm,
And it also
Yeah.
conflicts with one PS picnic month.
That's true. Okay. Great, thanks for the feedback. Any other thoughts on Earth Day future planning? Okay,
Thank
great,
you. That
thank
was
you.
good discussion.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
And then the final item under old business is the leaf blower ban. We talked about it, I think, last month. And we've had some discussion since then about additional things that we might do. So that's what I asked Director McCloy to talk about this evening.
Thank you. Okay, I'll be brief on this because we did talk about it last month. So here's kind of where we're at. So this is, you can almost read this like a wheel or a zigzag of kind of where we started last month, where the problem is today. Not that different, but some refinements. So problem, this ordinance is 5 years old, still hearing a lot of reports about gas leaf blowers. Complicating factor. This is really hard to track down. This is just kind of a recap of our last meeting. The new approach that we're using this year, as we discussed, and as we're actually seeing a lot more evidence of, is that property owners are receiving the warnings and citations when code enforcement is not able to cite the operator of the leaf blower. For whatever reason, they're either not there on time, or, you know, there's no identifying information or something like that. So the kind of refined version of the problem statement from the yellow to the blue there is, how might we make our outreach and education more effective and help to streamline our enforcement efforts? So this is kind of the question that we landed on after our last discussion, and what we've been kind of working on and noodling on for the past couple of weeks, which again, only been a couple of weeks, so don't get your hopes up too high, but we do have some plans. So two buckets here, some ideas and things that we're investigating for outreach, and then I'll have a separate slide with ideas and things we're investigating for enforcement. So, so one of the things we talked about a little bit at our last meeting is that we're getting pretty low uptake of our rebate. So we still have our $750 rebate available, which for some models is enough to pretty much cover the cost. It's about half of the cost of a battery pack. And kind of the entry level models would be covered under that. We also discussed in our last meeting that now you're only able to buy electric leaf blowers unless the store still has like one gas leaf blower left in stock. And so we still are offering this rebate, even though it's the only rebate you can buy, or the only item you can buy. However, we don't see a lot of people taking it up. One of the things that, you know, we've talked with our other city counterparts about, and some of our other departments that we work with, is that a rebate is work. You know, a rebate can take, you know, 4 to 6 weeks to get your money back. If you're running a low margin business, that can be tricky. You also have to, you know, be registered and have all your forms close to hand, and you got to fill out our form, and we got to review it and go back and forth. And, you know, so there's a lot of hurdles here to actually undertaking that rebate. So what a couple of other cities are doing, and what we've actually done in the past, is pivoting either from a rebate to either like a swap in, like almost a trade-in program, which is what was offered in the past with funding from the Air Quality Management District, or purchasing it on someone's behalf. So there's a new rebate program for e-bikes, for example, which when it launches is going to basically provide a point of sale rebate, or you see this for some other stuff where, you know, you actually are not involved in processing the rebate, the store would kind of aggregate that, so maybe we have a small number of stores who are pre-approved to, you know, kind of act as those intermediaries or something like that. There's a balance here between, you know, making sure that we're targeting the leaf blowers to like only the most registered, most Palm Springs above, you know, not above board necessarily, but the, you know, the people who got all their paperwork in order. And so therefore are more likely to take advantage of it. I have a hunch that the people who've got all their ducks in a row and are likely to get a rebate are following this ordinance. I think it's more the folks who are a little bit less ducks in a row, who we might need to make the process easier to help reach them with some of these new equipments. So that's one idea that we've been investigating, is kind of moving away from the rebate model to a model that involves less steps for getting that equipment. We've also been discussing, and this is something that's come up in a few of our different programs, in terms of outreach to the people who are contracting with the landscapers, starting with a one-to-many strategy, focusing on those HOAs that are still using and contracting with gas-powered leaf blowers. So we still do get complaints about some HOAs that are still using gas-powered leaf blowers. That's fewer people that we have to reach than every individual property owner. So starting out with kind of thinking about, instead of just playing whack-a-mole, like how do we box out certain elements of the universe of gas leaf blowers? So it's like, you know, can we do one enforcement focus and action that gets us, or one education action that gets us 10 leaf blowers, as opposed to one here, one here, one here. You know, so just being a little bit more efficient with the outreach and figuring out how we get to more people. So that's something that we're looking into trying to do. Also talking about the need to charge the equipment. So this is something that we do hear from landscapers, is that they're having issues where the batteries run out of charge, especially during the heat. Although we see the fewest complaints in the summer because people around, less leaf blowing. But, so incorporating that into some of our more general outreach is like, how are property owners making outdoor plugs or some charging access available if they want to see this happen? That's a major barrier that a lot of people are incorporating. So even if, you know, your landscaper shows up and immediately plugs in the backup battery, so that way they can get started, or maybe they do the other stuff first, and when the battery's charged, then they finish off with the leaf blowing. So incorporating that need to charge into some of our outreach, because that is something that we hear from code enforcement and also from landscapers, is that they're like, well, I had the electric one, but I ran out of battery. This is my fourth house of the day. Like, I don't have anywhere to charge. And then another idea is figuring out how we kind of take the opposite angle here, which is recognizing those homes and landscapers are using electric leaf blowers. So I know we talked a little bit last time where we have an assumption that we have a smaller number of bad actors than good actors. You know, this is always an assumption that needs to be ground truthed and continue to be tested, but we do have a number of people in Palm Springs who are following the ordinance. You know, we don't get complaints about every property. We don't get complaints about every company. So how might we recognize those homes and landscapers that do utilize the electric leaf blowers, and kind of show how feasible it is for many people, you know, and kind of get that maybe peer pressure angle going a little bit more. Ideas for enforcement. So this year is, as I mentioned, the first year that we are doing the owner citations. I want to do some before and after analysis on numbers to see what kind of impact that has on the numbers. We think it's going to help us because it means that we're actually getting to citation more often in more of these cases. So I know we talked a little bit in our last meeting about how many complaints we get, and it's a, you know, big number of complaints, pretty small number of enforcement actions that actually take place after that because of the difficulty of kind of following that all the way through. Technology opportunities that are easier to implement. So this means, like, you know, is it more easy for us to just do a citation when we get that photo submission, or even potentially accepting something like a video submission that allows us to not have to be there on site to verify either that first warning or the first citation. So if we have like a timestamped, geo-stamped photo that's submitted, is that enough for us to kind of go straight to that owner citation? It may be, but if we're going with the property owner citation, it's very difficult to do that if you're citing the landscaper, because, you know, if you're just sending a picture of a person with the backpack on, it's like, that is, how am I supposed to cite that from a photo? As opposed to if you have a little bit more information about the address. So that's something that code enforcement is still kind of figuring out the details of, but I don't, you know, that's kind of the medium term thing that we can look into. And then something that we talked about last time is really looking at that targeted enforcement, focusing on some kind of subset. So either a specific neighborhood, specific part of the city that we focus on at a given time to really kind of laser in and see, you know, have a focus on those particular areas. one of the funny downsides of, you know, doing the enforcement the way that we do have plug-in hybrids, to Commissioner Burkett's earlier point, for our code enforcement officers. Sometimes those plug-in hybrids run out of battery. I don't want to think about the emissions, you know, that we're spending to chase the emissions from the leaf blower. This is again, the contradiction of climate work, but, so being a little bit more efficient with our targeted enforcement. So those are some ideas that we've been working on. And then I will leave us on this kind of commissioner discussion here. I warned the team in the meeting that I was gonna do this and they thought I was joking, but I did it. So how might we like think about neighbors and neighborhoods here? Like, what are some of the ways to encourage compliance? You know, should we be giving people signs that say like, only electric leaf blowers here? You know, could we do like a little magnet badge on the side of a landscaper truck that's like, or something, you know, is that you know, what are some ways that we can think about highlighting, you know, I know DWA has the signs that are like, this yard is going gold this summer, you know, for people who aren't overseeding, for example. So, you know, do we want to do some kind of visual reminder of how many people are following the ordinance? And then the second question I have is kind of, where do commissioners feel like this issue ranks on our priorities list? So, you know, you've heard about a lot of different things, you see a lot of things in the staff report. You know, we've got a lot of different ideas that we could pursue here. But, you know, they're all gonna kind of take different, relatively significant levels of time to do. And so I just wanna kind of have a bit of a discussion here for commissioners, you know, where does this sit? You know, if we were to go back to my egg chart that I made everybody look at in orientation, leaf blowers does not have its own blob on this. I don't know that I would consider it like a core issue of kind of our day-to-day in terms of meeting our carbon emissions goals, but it is an important part of our sustainability landscape. So, you know, wanted to kind of get a temperature check from the commission on kind of how we should be thinking about this going forward. So first one is, do we want an electric zone sign? Second one is kind of, where does this rank in priority? So we know kind of how the resources going forward. And I promise I'd be fast. I'm sorry, that was really classic LP lightning speed. I apologize.
The
Yes,
problem with the sign is like my HOA wouldn't allow,
fair point. Yeah.
but I kind of like. I guess it sounds hokey, but I kind of like the landscaper had on the side of their truck, you know, I've gone green or something. like
Yeah,
that.
sure. Like a little magnetic.
But you see them all around all the time, so that's one good thing.
Yeah.
As far as the ranking,
Mhm.
there's a double thing with this. There's the air pollution, but there's also noise pollution
Right.
because the gas ones are louder.
Mhm.
So in terms of making quality in Palm Springs, I don't know what the ranking of things are, but I put it middling anyway. If that makes sense.
Yes. I thought, yeah. Double benefit.
Yeah.
Commissioner.
I like the idea of signs because I think a bigger part of it is educating homeowners, because everyone I talk to does not know that they can be cited if their gardener is using a gas powered leaf blower.
Sure.
I don't think anybody knows that at all. So I think just getting that information out, you know, via social media and other ways. If somebody sees a sign in the yard, and I think even the landscapers looking at it would be like, ooh, you know, I'm using my gas powered leaf blower, you know, in front of this sign. I think that actually is a good way of increasing compliance. And I think it's probably middling for me too, a little bit higher up, because it is a quality of life issue. And I've even heard of friends renting places like STRs and having a gas leaf blower like come into their, you know, yard while they're sitting by the pool and thinking that they didn't want to rent a house here, you know, now. So I think it is an economic issue too, you know, so I think it's a real important quality of life issue overall.
Great, thanks. Super happy to be back. Appreciate them. Let me pause. Sure.
As one who has a lot of history with this,
Mhm.
I think it's something that we should put a priority on. Maybe not the highest priority, but it's something that we should continue to work on. And we've made progress from last month to this month, coming up with other suggestions. And one of the things that you and I have talked about is perhaps on another education campaign. The last meeting, I passed out the flyer that was developed in 2019 when the ordinance first took place. Another way of approaching education is, you know, not just saying there's a ban, but saying, you know, there are environmental issues. There's noise, And there's air pollution associated with gas powered leaf blowers and perhaps, approach it from that point of view. And that information could go to homeowners as well as to the landscaping companies. So I think that's something that perhaps we can start working on in terms of a draft of how we might make that message and decide how to send it out to people, to homeowners as well as landscapers. Actually, it's easier to send to landscapers because
Right,
they have the
business license,
addresses
yeah.
on their business
Yeah.
licenses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd like to see that going, especially with our renewed emphasis on climate action to getting rid of the emissions from these gas powered blowers. It's 1% of what we accounted for in Palm Springs, but that's 1% that we perhaps could get rid of pretty quickly.
Thanks. I'm gonna go to Commissioner Cohn first because you haven't spoken yet, and then we'll come back to you, Commissioner. Was there another hand over there? Okay, so we'll, okay, hold on.
Pretty much.
Cohn, Walker, Graham, then we'll go Alexander, back to Frick. Okay, we'll kind of restart the circle. Okay, yeah.
Do you have, speaking of short-term rentals, do you have data or are the owners of short-term rental homes required or expected to have the appropriate leaf blowers? And is that part of the application process or
That's
the
a good
enforcement?
question as to whether it's in specific documentation for STR owners, that I can double check. I haven't looked for that specifically. I know the last time I kind of looked at that documentation, it was more for like waste
Yeah.
compliance related stuff, so I can check on that.
And it's very easy
Yeah.
for those to get overlooked because
Right.
you have to be a neighbor to figure out anybody in the neighborhood that's not in compliance, and then you're the bad person.
No, that makes sense. Thank you. Well, I can look into that. I don't know off the top of my head.
Is this applying to only the landscapers that are registered as a Palm Springs business?
So all of no one is allowed to use gas powered leaf blower here, not just registered businesses.
Okay,
The rebate is currently available to people who have a business license to operate in the city of Palm Springs, which should be all businesses who are doing business here.
okay.
It's not always, but we do have a pretty high registration rate for people who.
Because I'm asking that question because half of the landscaping company that comes into our neighborhood or not street are not from Palm Springs. They come
Right.
from a different city.
Mhm.
But when I asked, hey, you can change this one, they're like, yeah, I'm not from the city.
So even, and any business who's doing business in Palm Springs, even if they're not based here, is supposed to have a business license.
Yeah.
So they may still have that, if they don't, they probably should get it. So that's also, an avenue of outreach for us as well. Just so-
Are we looking at this as like stopping with the leaf blowers only for landscaping companies? Because I really like the idea of having the landscaper, okay, I'm green, like you change a leaf blower, maybe you get like a bronze magnet. And eventually I see Palm Springs going towards, well, we got a really good feedback on leaf blowers. The next item is the grass cutter. We want to go with the weed whacker. We want to change that into electric ones. Probably we will be moving that direction down the line when we want to make it much greener. So do we want to develop something that will make these landscapers want to have that? Just like, if you get a leaf blower that's electric, you're getting a bronze one. If you change other equipment that can be electric, making sure you have enough battery system. Again, the homeowner needs to get involved, right? If a homeowner can provide an outside plug, the landscapers can think about, oh, okay, I can carry batteries and charge it at every house. So do we want to do that one? My problem with that sign is like, people are already having signs. Is that gonna be a nuisance in the neighborhood again, saying like, my neighbor has so many signs and I can't look at their yard?
Yeah, well, I mean, this was definitely just like a placeholder.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, fair point. Too many signs.
Too many signs.
And many people can't do a sign at all, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea about the kind of tiered, greener to greenest approach, so we'll look at that.
Yeah, because they will grow with us eventually. When you're talking about HOAs, I'm thinking about along with the HOAs, can we focus on like commercial buildings? Those landscaping companies as well, because that's like the majority ones, big companies handling HOAs and the commercial buildings.
Yeah, that's a great point for our one-to-many strategy, also including commercial. Yeah, we can do that. Thank you. Commissioner Duffy.
I'll just be brief. 5 years. So I remember when this started 5 years ago as being a member of the community and also representing a business. 5 years ago that we started making these plans. Here we are 5 years later, still talking about it. And there are a lot of blowers out there. We know it. I think that we, not only as a sustainability commission, we need to maybe spend some money and more time on this. I think it needs to be a high priority. It's 5 years. I think that the community knows about it. I just don't, I think some of them are ignoring it, but I think there's some people that don't understand that the homeowner is the responsible person. They're just not understanding that. They think that somebody else is gonna do it for them. We need to say more stuff to the homeowners and the HOAs. The HOAs and the property management companies that also are going to be property management companies that I've actually spoken to are not aware of it. And there's a lot of property management companies that we have in the city. And that's also a communication with them, how we're gonna do it, but it's 5 years, here we are. Some of the businesses have spent a lot of money to make these changes, and we don't see people like, why is this happening in little small little spurts, but then we're slowly moving, but not fast enough.
Yeah, makes sense. No, thanks. Thank you for that. I'm just keeping us moving because we've been here a while, so thank you. Commissioner Alexander.
So he kind of stole my.
Okay.
'Cause I was gonna say HOAs,
Yeah.
ping them.
Mm.
I know Desert Highland, Four Seasons, Maryland. I think, at least those have newsletters. So if you get to the HOA and put in the newsletter, most of the residents look at that, and if you say in that newsletter, you know, you will be responsible for blah, 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 if that might get through, and there's so many homes, it's like do an exercise class, I have about 50% of that class who goes back to Iowa or Canada or whatever, and then that house is managed by, I'm assuming, a property management company. And if they aren't involved in this, they're gonna keep using gas powered people to send them out there.
Yeah, there's a few layers of separation in many cases
Yeah.
between people and
There's
blowers.
a house next door to me, the people aren't home half the time.
Mm,
They're not there.
Okay, cool, thank you. Newsletters noted and figuring out how we kind of get to those intermediaries. Thank you. Commissioner Fick, next.
Kathy already mentioned this,
Okay.
but short-term vacation rentals. Because the absentee homeowners don't know about this at
Right.
all.
Sure.
And I find those homes are the ones that are using
Yes.
gas leak blowers more often,
Yeah.
so. if we
Well,
can
that's
expose
another-
people-
Yeah, no, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing we can add to the one-to-many strategy, because all of those homes are required to be registered in a different way through code compliance and special programs, and they do annual recertifications on certain things, so kind of to Commissioner's point, yeah, we
Yeah.
can box them
Definitely
and find them, yeah. That's
easy to reach.
Okay, yes, Commissioner.
The only thing I would say, I would agree with giving this a relatively, not the very highest, but fairly high priority, because we have been talking about it. It was big when it started. I mean, people were upset by these plans or whatever else. It's known. It's something that has to be, that needs to be done. So I would say that. And I think that the issue of like, I actually like that model, but we can't do it. You can't put signs in most yards and they get trashy themselves, but we can do lots of social media. And if we increase the presence of our social media and we start saying rewards for neighborhoods and people who are doing well, and it shows up there and whatever else, and so.
Sure. Yeah, get the neighborhood that goes the longest without having a leaf blower complaint called in. Give them a $10 gift certificate to share with the whole neighborhood. Yeah, okay, yeah, I like that idea.
What the code compliance is going out, like one of the strategy we talked about, like buying it on behalf or swapping it.
Yeah.
What if the code compliance has like 10 electric leaf blowers in their car vehicle and they're going to like neighborhood by neighborhood, like on a scheduled basis. And if they see somebody, there can be a simple paperwork where they're swapping it, or the code compliance is giving them a new leaf blower and getting paperwork from them and say, hey, if anybody ever complain about you that you're using a gas one, you will get a hefty fine.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. It'd be like, right in the moment of just like, choose your own adventure. Yeah, interesting idea. I like it. Thank you. Other comments, questions, thoughts? It's been very helpful. Yes, question.
This just sounds silly. There's at least two of us who bicycle. We need to start having cameras on our helmets so we can take pictures of what people are doing in their yards.
Well, that's actually a good segue into kind of the point I wanted to make to wrap us up here, which is we're gonna need some help. This is especially with like thinking about all the different communities that we want to talk to, all of the different ways in which we want to collaborate and get this outreach out to different people. And I'm hearing a strong interest in maintaining this as a high priority. I appreciate that. And I'm kind of trying to think of how we resource this. So, there's definitely a lot of this I think we can take back and implement. Well, I'm not trying to say like, I'm not going to do it. But I want to think about ways that we as a commission can, or you all as a commission, I'm not a member of it, that we can work together with the commission to maybe have some of these conversations, identify places where these conversations can take place. Get commissioners out talking at some of these neighborhood association meetings or writing a piece for the newsletter. Chair Clark, I know you raised your hand, so I heard.
1 PS.
Getting other folks talking at 1 PS because people are sick of hearing from me, but.
I just wanted to get my comment in first, so
Oh, yes,
if you're
sure.
done speaking.
Oh, yes, sure, yeah, go ahead.
I suggest that we form an ad hoc subcommittee to work on this, maybe 2 or 3 people. And I think we have a lot of good suggestions and we perhaps can prioritize what we want to focus on first. And I'll volunteer to be part of it. And
Anybody?
perhaps we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Yeah, totally, that sounds good. That would be helpful. So I think especially as we're thinking about all of these great ways and all these people that we want to talk to. I see all of these really eloquent and informed and excited people sitting in front of me, and I would love to empower all of you to help carry that message. So I think an ad hoc subcommittee is a great next step. Thank you, Chair.
The ambassadors.
Yes, exactly. Leaf blower ambassadors. We'll give you a little pass. We'll give you guys the electric zone
When
sign.
you go to the wall- when you go to the wall.
And a car full of.
And a car full of leaf blowers, yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Very helpful feedback on both of those topics. I appreciate it. And that's all. I think that's all we have.
Yep.
Thank you. That was good discussion, and that ends the regular part of our meeting. So the final section is to what is commissioner comments and suggestions for June agenda items. And I have a couple of agenda item suggestions, which I'll bring up first and then go around the table and ask for any others or any commissioner comments. We had talked previously about having a general discussion about shade, and we would have Christian talk about that. So I think that's one potential topic for a future meeting. Another one that I'll talk to Director McCloy about some more is at our task force meeting for Parks and Recreation, there was a person there who made a presentation about sustainability in parks. And I thought it was, I saw the presentation, I thought it was very good. And I thought perhaps it might be appropriate for him to come and speak to us at a future meeting, perhaps the next meeting as well. So that's something to think about. And also Bird Strike, we have an ad hoc subcommittee. Are you going to be ready to talk about that at the next meeting?
Maybe.
Two of us, right after this one.
So you have
Looking at.
you have 4 weeks to
Okay.
meet.
Put some fire
If you'd like to commit, then we'll put that on the agenda.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we'll go around the table and see if there are any other comments or suggestions for agenda items. Commissioner Frick.
Done for me? I'm sure. Thank you.
The first item I'll say about USPS trucks, I spoke to one of the driver that comes to the neighborhood. The trucks doesn't have air conditioning and it's always like 15 degrees hotter in the middle of summer. And I was wondering, as like a community, they're getting new trucks next year through the federal program or whatever they do. If we can pitch in like the difference or something, maybe we can get them some closed, air-conditioned USPS trucks.
Oh.
For the mail USPS, not for UPS, USPS. I get confused with that. It was so sad to listen to that story, that even when it's 125 outside, it's 15 degrees hotter inside. All they have is a tiny weeny fan that does not make any difference. So I think we need to, USPS get backed up in every community because we see them every day, but they don't take the priority, like first responders or nurses, all these things. I just wanna make it as an agenda item sometime soon so we can discuss about it. The other thing, I don't know whether this is appropriate for this one or the waste reduction subcommittee. Bread and Flour conducted a community cleanup along with Prescott Preserve. Maybe we can have them and come and tell us their experience. So when we are formulating this community cleanup thing that we want to do that, we can use their feedback to develop our program for community cleanups. That's it.
That might be something for the waste reduction.
Okay.
subcommittee. Thank you. Commissioner Cone,
No.
Commissioner Barrett.
The only thing I'm keep coming back to this, we need to do more about promoting. And that's not a sustainable topic, but we need to be promoting sustainability, and we keep hitting things here where we need to be more visible. And we need to be more visible, and we need to think more about promotion. Because I'm giving up on rules. We need to embarrass people and to,
Commissioner Alexander.
So I'm not sure what this goes under, but this flyer on composting, it says that you can put brown paper bags, compostable plastic in the container, but on the website, it says you can use those and you can use a plastic bag, which doesn't compost, so.
So that's, I can just quickly answer that here. So that's a requirement of the place where we dump the food waste.
Right.
Food waste and yard waste are very different moisture levels. Food waste, very wet, very sticky. Yard waste generally pretty dry, which is also why if you've been using your green can for yard waste for years, you probably haven't had to wash it that many times because it doesn't get that gross. But the second you start putting food waste in there, you're like spraying it down every week if you're not using a bag. So there's two reasons why plastic bags have been allowed and requested by that facility. They request a bag of some kind and they allow for plastic. Because they have to separate the bags out before they kind of sort it out. And so it allows them to make that separation between the yard waste, which is dry and compost one way, and the food waste, which is wet and compost a different way. And it also helps to keep the bins a little bit cleaner, which is generally a recommendation we've seen from a lot of places that have put in composting. But the facility that we drop it at basically is the short answer of why plastic bags are allowed. We're trying to encourage people to use the brown paper and the compostable bags, but technically speaking, the plastic's still allowed to.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about it more in the Scour subcommittee for sure. It's something that we haven't revisited in a while, but it was an item of a lot of confusion last year.
Okay.
But thank you for the question, and good to know that the newsletter and the website are saying different things. We should straighten that out.
Well, at least I'm reading it.
Yeah, thank you. I was like, great close reading. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you all. And with that, I think we've come to the end of our meeting and it's time to adjourn. It's 2 hours tonight, but it was a very productive meeting. So the next meeting is scheduled for June 18th. Is there a at 5:30 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.